to my channel. Okay, one of the main reasons I've started my YouTube is because I've just fully torn my ACL, which is a little bit of a nightmare because I work in fitness, I live and breathe fitness, I've never stopped for like longer than a few days. And it's my first time ever being injured, it's going to be a completely new experience for me. And since putting on my Instagram, I've realised how many people have torn their ACLs, and what a lot of people said is that they wish that there was more out there about people sharing the journey throughout and all the ups and downs. Trust me, it's been a roller coaster so far. So I thought I would share as much as I can. So this video is just going to be a little bit of an intro into the story, how I did it, and it's been roughly a month now since I've torn mine, so I just wanted to give my experience with it, how it felt when I did it, whether or not I thought I'd torn it, how long, like how was the whole MRI process, and where I'm at currently, and whether or not I'm getting surgery. So grab yourself a cup of tea, it's gonna be a little bit of a chatty one. Let's start with a little bit of a backstory. So I grew up as a competitive gymnast and I've always skied since I was about 3 years old. Very grateful, thanks to my parents for taking me. And last year, I decided I was a bit bored of doing piste and off-piste and the normal stuff, so I decided to teach myself how to front flip on skis. Managed to teach myself in about 4 days, had so many huge wipeouts, and I didn't hurt myself once. I think partly because we had amazing conditions, we had loads of fresh snow, so the ground was so soft. But in general, in life, I've never broken a bone, I've never really badly injured myself, which is really surprising when you grow up in gymnastics. You're just kind of like 9 times out of 10 gymnasts get awful injuries. And I've always been really good at falling because I learned to fall from a young age in gymnastics, and I'm also pretty strong and very flexible. It just means that when I fall, I don't break in half, and I normally come out of things pretty scot-free and pretty well. About a month ago now, I went away skiing with my family and Sam, my boyfriend, and it was our first ski trip together and his first time being away with my family. And on day one, it's always day one of the ski trip, right at the end of the day, we were both practicing 360s. We were in one of the parks, so obviously it's really hard, packed snow, hard landings, and I went for a 360, and I'll put in the video here, you can't see the landing, but basically on the landing, my ski went one way, my knee went the other, and I heard a pop, and a pop is just never what you want to hear. And I would say I have quite a high pain tolerance, and I'm always like, oh, things will ease off, it'll be fine. Like, I have a lot of confidence in my body that it's never gonna get injured. So anyway, I was on the floor, it was really painful, and I was lying on the floor for maybe like 10-15 minutes, and Sam's physio, so came over, like checked my knee and everything. And it was when I stood up and it was just really, really unstable. I was like, oh, this is not good. Me being the kind of person I am, I'm stubborn as hell, and I was like, it's gonna be fine, I'm gonna just make my way down the mountain. I should have, in hindsight, probably got one of those, they're called meat wagons. I think it's mad that they're called meat wagons. Like one of the rescue teams to take you down the mountain. But I was like, I didn't know how much they cost. I was like, they're probably gonna cost a fortune, and then I have to get on my insurance, etc. It's gonna be a whole faff. So I was like, I'll just get down the mountain, which took us literally 2 hours. We managed to get one ski lift down, and then the rest I was literally sidestepping down. And fell a couple times, like, oh, it's actually horrible to even think of, like it was so sore. So anyway, the next day we went straight to the doctors, had an arsehole of a doctor, French guy who honestly, he didn't even look at my knee once. He tried to put me in for an x-ray because they obviously want to make money, but we knew we wanted an MRI because an MRI shows you whether or not you've broken something, and it shows you everything else, like whether or not you've torn your ACL, whereas an x-ray only shows you break. So it's just a waste of money, to be honest, and you're better getting an MRI scan. So the doctor didn't even look at my knee once, and he prescribed me a knee brace, which was just a compression knee brace. It didn't have any metal through it, so it wasn't going to give me much stability, especially if I wanted to ski. So we went to the pharmacy and luckily managed to pick up one of these bad boys, which is a hinge brace. So you can basically lock this so you can't fully extend your leg, and you can only flex it at a certain level. This has got these 2 big metal bits down the side, which just gives you the stability either side of it. It did cost like £190, which I'm still trying to get back on my insurance because the doctor didn't give me anything useful to send to the insurance company. Anyway, we did not think I tore my ACL. Sam did loads of testing on it, and I mainly had pain up the outside of my knee and in the back of my knee. And I could still bear weight. It wasn't that painful to bear weight. It was just quite unstable. But I didn't have any swelling, and is so common when you do your ACL. The majority of people have swelling in their knee, and I had only had a tiny bit, like minimal swelling. So we were thinking I'd maybe done my LCL. I was convinced that it was just going to ease off and it was going to be absolutely fine because my body's always fine after I fall. So I put the brace on, and on day 2, so under less than 24 hours after tearing my ACL, I got back on skis and I went for an afternoon of skiing. I would like to point out that we had no idea that I'd done my ACL by this point. We didn't think it was as bad, especially me. I didn't think it was as bad as it was. And ski holidays are expensive. It was Sam's first time with my family. I didn't want to just leave him on his own. And I really wanted to ski. I'm not good at just sitting and doing nothing. So got back on the mountain. I mainly put all of my weight through my right leg for the first couple of days and mainly only turned to the left. And later down the line it did actually cause me issues because I had a lot of pain in my right knee because it was overcompensating for my left knee. So obviously you should just rest. By the last day I was actually, like, it wasn't hurting. I was skiing pretty well, which again is not common when you do your ACL because a lot of people can't even bear weight when they do theirs. So we came home from the ski holiday and I got booked straight into an MRI scan. I went with Vista Health. Basically you can self-refer yourself with them, so you can just get it done so much quicker because you don't have to go and see a GP first and get them to refer you, if that makes sense. It was also so much cheaper than compared to the other companies that you can go with, and I was so positive about it. I was like, I'm gonna be back doing gymnastics in a couple weeks, it's gonna be fine because it's not that painful. So when I got my MRI results back and it said a fully torn ACL, I mean, first of all, I burst into tears. I think it was the shock of it. The shock, I shouldn't have been, in hindsight, I should not have been so positive in my outlook because it probably would have been less of a blow if I'd just been like, okay, I've injured myself, it's likely to be bad, like it could be something bad. Because honestly, I was like, no, gonna be absolutely okay. So yeah, hindsight's a great thing. I didn't take the news well because I work in fitness. It's what makes me happy. It's how I make my money. And I'm self-employed. I'm 26, living in London. Rent's not cheap. Like you can't just sit back and do nothing, especially when you're self-employed. Like your job is your life. So I think mentally finding out it was not good, I was just seriously stressed about the work side of things, and it's just the unknown of whether or not you need surgery on it. There's so much information out there about surgery or going down the non-surgical route, which kind of surgery, what surgeon, finding a good surgeon is another thing. Like there's just so much information you have to think about as soon as you find out you've done your ACL, and it is so overwhelming. It's just impossible to process. I think partly because I've never been injured, I've never had an operation, I've never really been out of sport for long. It's just a lot to process and you don't really know how to do it. So the last few weeks have been so rocky, like mentally I've been all over the shop, and I put it on my Instagram and I got so many different opinions, like so many lovely messages, but so many horror stories, people telling me how they'd had to have 4 surgeries since, their knee's never been the same, you won't be able to do this, you won't be able to do that, it was awful, it was the most painful thing, my mental health was down the drain. And especially when I was trying to process it on my own, getting all those kind of messages was really hard. And I was so overwhelmed with it all, and that's probably the first time that messages from people have ever impacted me, because normally even if I get hate or something, like I don't really care, I can take most chat, like I'm not really fazed by many things, but I think it was just something that was completely new to me and so much information was being thrown at me. It's just so overwhelming. I think what I found really hard was the fact that there's not a one size fits all for recovery. There's not a, you should 100% get surgery, you should 100% get this kind of surgery. Like everyone is so different. Getting so many different opinions on what was the best thing is really hard, because also it's not the best, it might be the best thing for them, but it's not necessarily the best thing for you. So I think I wish I hadn't listened to so many other people and just waited until I'd had an appointment with the surgeon. And I finally had that meeting, and honestly it was such a relief, because I think I'd been going crazy thinking about whether or not I was best getting surgery, not getting surgery, what kind of surgery, whether you get your patella tendon, whether you get it from your hamstring, whether you get a donor graft, and there's so many like pros and cons to each, and you hear so many different success stories or failure stories. And another thing, oh my gosh, one of the main bits of advice that I got from people when I told them about my ACL was make sure you get a good surgeon. And to me that was crazy, because this is my first time ever anything medical. Like I don't know much about surgery, hospitals, like any of that. I just assumed that when you go into surgery, they do what they say they're gonna do, but obviously it's not that simple. Like, people do get bad surgeries where they don't quite do it right and the recovery is really long, or they have to get surgery again, or they get infections, etc. So that was another thing that I was just not expecting. So luckily I got on a surgery appointment about 3 weeks after I found out, and honestly I was so relieved to finally talk to someone who I knew I could trust, and my surgeon was absolutely lovely. He spent like an hour and a half with us, took us through the whole MRI scans, because by the way, they're an absolute minefield. He basically said that I should definitely get surgery. He recommended a hamstring graft, and he just said to be able to do the sports I want to do, like gymnastics, and to be able to trust my knee again, he recommends getting it. And I kind of assumed that that would be the route we'd go down, because I think it's just the trust side of things. Like, doing gymnastics as a sport and all the challenges I do across my socials, I have to have full trust in my body. I can't pause, I can't hesitate, I can't second guess my body when I'm doing these kind of things. So I think to have full confidence in it, again, I definitely do need surgery. But again, how the hell do you process that? The recovery of it is 3 weeks on crutches, and then 3 months to running, and then 9 to 12 months back to sports like gymnastics, tennis, anything to do with twisting side to side, which is such a long time. And being told that's one thing, and then trying to process that is a completely other thing. And I've not done a good job of processing it. I've been so up and down mentally, and I think it's just because I don't know what I'm meant to be feeling, because I'm grateful that I can move so much on it right now, but then there's this thing looming over me that I know all the hard work I'm putting in right now, I'm gonna go back to square one. And I know for a fact that prehab and getting as fit as you can and as strong as you can before your surgery is going to help the outcome and help the recovery and make that so much faster. But it's also just so hard, because you're pushing your body and you're like, I'm going to be back to square one. And I also don't even have a surgery date yet, which again is so hard because I can't plan anything. I want to go on holiday before I get my surgery, so I'm at least tanned and crippled. Last week I was honestly acting like I was 16 again, and my hormones were all over the shop. I didn't know how to control myself. I was just so up and down, like would be the happiest bunny in the world, and then would be so angry at the tiniest of things, and then I'd be bawling my eyes out. Like, I was just all over the place, and it's not been easy. It's just a lot of unknown, and it's pretty daunting. So for the last few weeks, my main focus has been getting the swelling down out of my knee. So it has included a lot of rest. I kept my brace on for maybe 2 weeks after. Now all I'm doing is strengthening everything around it as much as I can. I have such weak hamstrings, which I need to really work on. I just never do isolation exercises for my hamstrings, so I'm currently curling like double leg curl. I'm doing 20 kg, which is so weak in comparison to like my quads and glutes. So I work my hamstrings when I'm doing compound exercises, but I never specifically work them and isolate them. So I'm going to be doing a lot more hamstring isolation, since that's where they're taking the graft out of. And I've been working on getting my extension and flexion back within my knee, because it was pretty stiff after I did it. And I have hyperextended knees, which just means that they overextend basically. So I've been trying to get that back. That's a rough overview of where I'm at currently. As I say, I'm just waiting for an operation date, and then I'm gonna get into my prehab as hard as I can before that, get it as strong as I can. And yeah, I'm gonna share as much as I can along the way. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there's any specific things you want me to talk about or go into more detail about. If you're going through it too, then please let me know. But yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and thanks for watching.